Jack and the Soul Sword. Jack was just an ordinary boy from the small town of Black Hollow. Life was quiet and uneventful, and Jack often dreamed of adventure. Little did he know, his wish was about to come true in the most terrifying way. One stormy evening, Jack was exploring the woods near his home. He had been warned by his grandfather never to wander too far, but Jack's curiosity got the better of him. The forest was thick with fog, and the tall trees seemed to whisper secrets to each other. Suddenly, his foot hit something hard. Kneeling down, Jack brushed away the dirt to reveal the hilt of a sword. It was old and rusted, but something about it felt alive. When he touched it, a chill ran up his arm, and the storm seemed to grow quieter, as if the world was holding its breath. The hilt had strange carvings of faces, twisted, sorrowful faces that seemed to be crying out. When Jack pulled the sword free, a voice echoed in his mind. "You have found the soul sword. You are now its keeper." Jack stumbled back, heart pounding. "Who's there?" he whispered, but no one answered. The sword glowed faintly in the dim light, and the air felt heavier around him. The curse of the soul sword. Jack returned home, hiding the sword in his room. That night, his sleep was filled with strange dreams, visions of battles, of people fighting over the sword, and of the faces carved into its hilt. He woke up drenched in sweat, the voice from the forest still ringing in his ears. The next morning, he showed the sword to his best friend, Ellie, a brave and clever girl who loved solving mysteries. Ellie examined the carvings and said, "Jack, this isn't just any sword. This thing feels wrong. Where did you find it?" Jack explained everything, and Ellie's eyes widened. "We need to figure out what this is before something bad happens." They decided to visit Old Man Garrett, the town historian. Garrett's house was filled with dusty books and artifacts from the past. When Jack showed him the sword, the old man's face turned pale. "Where did you get this?" Garrett demanded. "In the woods," Jack said, feeling uneasy. Garrett leaned back in his chair, his voice trembling. "That's the soul sword. It's cursed. They say it holds the souls of those who've died trying to claim its power. It can give its wielder unimaginable strength, but it demands a price, your soul." Jack's heart sank. "What do I do with it?" "You must destroy it," Garrett said. "But that won't be easy. The sword is bound to you now. It won't let go without a fight." The journey to the Shadow Peaks. Ellie found an old map in one of Garrett's books. It showed a place called the Shadow Peaks, a jagged mountain range far to the north. According to legend, the only way to destroy the sword was to take it to the Forge of Souls, hidden deep within the mountains. With no other choice, Jack and Ellie packed supplies and set out on the journey. The road was dangerous, filled with dense forests, icy rivers, and treacherous cliffs. Along the way, Jack began to notice strange things. The sword seemed to hum when danger was near, and he sometimes heard whispers urging him to use its power. One night, they were attacked by a group of shadowy creatures, their eyes glowing red in the darkness. Jack instinctively drew the sword, and with one swing, the creatures dissolved into smoke. But as the last one vanished, Jack felt a searing pain in his chest, as if a piece of him had been torn away. Ellie rushed to his side. "Are you okay?" Jack nodded, though he felt weaker than before. "The sword. It's taking something from me. The Forge of Souls." After weeks of traveling, they reached the Shadow Peaks. The mountains were dark and forbidding, their jagged edges piercing the sky. The air was icy, and the wind howled like a chorus of lost souls. Deep within the mountains, they found the entrance to the Forge of Souls, a massive stone door covered in runes. Jack touched the sword to the door, and it swung open with a loud groan. Inside, the forge was a cavernous room filled with glowing lava and ancient machinery. In the center stood a pedestal surrounded by flames. As Jack approached, the voice in his head grew louder, pleading with him to stop. "Don't do this," the voice said. "You can have power, Jack. You can be unstoppable." Ellie grabbed his arm. "Don't listen to it, Jack. It's lying." Jack hesitated, the weight of the sword feeling heavier than ever. He stepped onto the pedestal and raised the sword above his head. The room shook violently, and the faces on the hilt began to scream. With all his strength, Jack plunged the sword into the flames. The screams grew louder, then stopped abruptly as the sword shattered into pieces. The aftermath. The cavern began to collapse, and Jack and Ellie barely escaped with their lives. As they stumbled out of the mountains, Jack felt a strange sense of relief. The weight he had carried for so long was gone. Back in Black Hollow, life slowly returned to normal. Jack and Ellie never spoke of the sword again, but Jack often thought about the journey and the choices he had made. He realized that true strength wasn't about power, it was about the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. And though the soul sword was destroyed, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that its whispers might one day return.
Did you enjoy this legendary folktale? There's so much more where that came from. Don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button for more.